Hey, welcome to the Publish, Promote, Profit podcast with me, Rob Kosberg. Every week, I interview thought leaders and experts who have used a book to grow their income and their impact. So tune in weekly for these interviews so you can learn how to use your own best-selling book and go from hunting for clients and opportunities to instead being the hunted. All right. Hey, welcome everybody. Rob Cosberg here with another episode of our Publish, Promote, Profit podcast. I have a great guest for you today. Robert Clinkenbeard is the CEO of the Radix Group with offices in Greenville, South Carolina, Phoenix, as well as the UK. Entrepreneur, senior leader in EO, Entrepreneurs Organization, and a four-time Ironman, which, holy cow, that's impressive. And you are the author of the Ironman Mindset for Entrepreneurs. So we're going to want to talk a little bit about that. You've served on multiple boards, and you're currently on the Eastern Regional Board of Directors for EO as an area director. So, Robert, thanks so much for being with us. Look forward to chatting with you today.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks. I appreciate the invite and look forward to chatting.
Love it. So I'd like to just dive right into the book that you've written and how it relates to the businesses that you've built. We were talking before, you built a great business that you exited from, and of course you have the Radix Group now. Maybe, everybody has their various steps, if you will, to their success principles. Tell me, what are like the main kind of foundational elements of the Ironman mindset for entrepreneurs?
The reason why I started that book was, my dad has actually written 4 or 5 books, and it became almost like I wanted to try and not prove myself, but just, I suppose, make my dad proud. Nice. So I started to think, what can my book be about? And, I'd grown a really successful business. I'd started to do I moved from soccer and rugby into doing small triathlons, and I eventually got into my larger Ironman stuff. And I started to, think there was a lot of similarities between running a business and doing an Ironman. And so the main principles I talk about in the book is that, whether you have an Ironman race where you have a training plan, so that training plan might be 6 or 9 months off from when the race starts. So you have to build, how many miles I'm going to do every week, how many hours of swimming a day.
Right.
So you're building that roadmap or that training plan. And then you compare that to business, where a lot of people just deal with that day-to-day minutia. You're dealing with the day-to-day challenges in business, where if you actually build that roadmap of where you're going, it could be a year, it could be 3 years, 5 years. So that's how, I suppose, what built my framework around writing the book.
Love it. So there's a lot of things swirling around in my head. My buddy's son is a triathlete, and we went to Kona a few years ago
to
watch him compete there. Yeah. And, I'm a golfer, and golfers are certainly athletes. I mean, I've played a lot of sports in my life, and it's hard to hit that little white ball, even though it just sits still, right? But man, I have never been so impressed with the athletes that I saw at Kona. And he was like the number 6 American that year. He's an amateur. Really, really impressive young man. But just to see those athletes, I mean, tell me, like, what are some of these specifics? You talk about mapping it out, but, to get to that kind of level where you're running a marathon, you're swimming 2.4 miles, et cetera, all of these things, which is incredible. And I understand the challenges in business and being an entrepreneur, but relate it more specifically to me. Like, you're doing this crazy thing and you're building incredible businesses. Give me more details on how they're related.
Yeah. I mean, I was training the height 20 hours a week. So, to try and do that amount of training while running a successful business with, nearly 350, 400 employees. So, discipline is probably one of the first things. You have to be super disciplined about your day, making sure that, your day is completely mapped out and scheduled. You're really prepared for it. So if you go into meetings in business, then you have an agenda, you're going to talk about, and you have outcomes at the end of it. It's the same when doing triathlon training, where you have to be prepared the night before. What's your goals for the next day? You're going to do a 2-hour bike ride. I need all my nutrition. I need all my water to be successful. I need all my equipment to be ready. So a lot of it's to do with discipline and preparation.
Wow.
And then, again, when you compare business and triathlons, we're going to go through challenges. I would get injured. I would get dehydrated, training in Arizona. I would get injuries. And, there's two ways you could think about it. You either just get down because of those injuries, or you just work your way through that. Maybe you're training a different part of your body. It's the same in business where, every day you have some type of employee issue, or maybe you're getting some type of a legal challenge, or maybe you have an unhappy client. So those types of things can be really negative to you.
Yeah.
And it's trying to just work your way through those challenges. So yeah, there's challenges both in trading, challenges both in business. And it's that mindset on how you work through those challenges. How are you going to come out in a positive way, either by learning, or maybe you have a win by figuring out how to create a solution.
Wow. You threw something out, 5,400 employees, and you were training 20 hours a week while running that company. Did I hear that right?
350 to 400 employees.
400
which is still
employees.
A lot.
Okay.
Yeah, just still a lot.
That's a lot of employees. So,
yeah.
Well, tell me a little bit about that company, but also tell me what pieces did you have in place to be able to train 20 hours a week while still running your business at such a high level?
So people was probably the first thing. I made sure I brought some really great people. I brought them in a sort of lower to medium level, and I helped to coach them. So again, there's that correlation between sports and business, that you have to coach everybody individually. You have to mentor them. So I coached them to a high enough level that effectively they ran the business for me. And then the second part of that is giving them the framework to be successful. So I give them the map of where do I want the company to go in 3 years and 5 years, whether it be a revenue number, whether it be going to different states, and then have key performance indicators for each position, so that wherever I am, if I'm racing in France or Switzerland, I can always check on my dashboard and see how different parts of my business was performing. So each leader had their KPIs, 3 to 5 KPIs that I was able to check on.
Yeah.
So those types of the framework and the tools helped me, I suppose, run that company with the confidence that it was still going to grow without me being there.
Beautiful. Very impressive, and congratulations on both those feats. I remember at Kona, watching them finish. Of course, they run down the last, 50 yards or so, and it's a red carpet. And then the announcer announces every single person the same way. Robert, you are an Ironman. I was like, oh my gosh, I want to do that.
Yeah.
And then
it gives you chills in your body.
Oh my gosh, it's incredible. You look like you're in great shape. Are you still training for Ironman? Are you still running and swimming and doing all that's necessary for it?
Yeah, I still do. I'm not doing this as intense because I now have young kids, but I'm still biking, still running. I'll probably do a half Ironman later this year now that COVID is behind us.
Yeah.
But, talking about that finish line, again, when you look at in business or some type of a race, if you have some type of a goal at the end of it, then it keeps you motivated when you have those challenges. So for me, I remember really well is that when I went across the finish line in Nice, France, it was a tough race. It was 5,000-6,000 feet of climbing, but I knew that my wife and my 2-year-old at the time were waiting at the finish line. So the ability to carry that 2-year-old across that finish line just kept me going through the race.
Wow. Very cool. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
One of the, I guess, maybe key finish lines for business owners is the exit. And you exited your business very successfully, and of course have the Radix group now. I wonder talk to me a little bit about some of the principles of exiting, mistakes that you maybe avoided or maybe some that you made, but maybe spell that out for us, because for a lot of business owners, it's like, there isn't much of an exit strategy, and that maybe is a liken or akin to running a race and there not being a finish line, which would be incredibly odd, of course.
You're right. I think a lot of businesses that I go in and help and coach, I find that they don't necessarily have that exit plan in their mind. I think a lot of them are caught up still working in the weeds. So they're going into their day, they're being pulled in different directions. They're coming out at the end of the day just being exhausted. They're not seeing the needle moving in the company.
Right.
So my goal with them is to try and to come up with some type of an exit plan, whether they're ready to sell or not. But if they have some type of an exit plan, then they have some options. So, who's that right-hand person ready to take over the company from you? Is there somebody that you could promote to allow you to work more on the business rather than in it?
Yeah.
So I've just been working with this company here close to me in Greenville where, this owner was exhausted. He was working 60, 70 hours a week, ready to pack it in. He was still only 40. And, after I start to work with him, we've now got the CEO in place. He's now able to spend 20, 30 hours with his family. He's just in a lot better place. But it just took somebody to give him a nudge and give him some direction in how to position his company for sale, and which is now what we've done. We've now got it in such a place where there's somebody in place, there's processes and procedures in place. He's got everything running financially well. He's got some good cash flow going through the business. So it just took looking at those different steps to figure out what he needed to work on.
Yeah, great. Love it. Tell me, this is obviously what you're doing with the Radix group now, is so you're primarily coaching, consulting businesses, helping them to put those pieces into place and perhaps exit, have that finish line, et cetera. Is there like a level that you're looking for? Does a business need to be doing $10 million a year in revenue, $5 million, $2 million? And for somebody listening, what are like some of the key things that they should be thinking about when maybe bringing on someone like yourself to help them, coach them, consult them in this process?
Yeah, I think ideally any company, I'll look at any company, but ideally in that 5 million and above.
Okay.
But, I think the first thing I would be asking them to do is, who are the people around you that can help you take the next level? There's a lot of companies that have had employees around for years, and they're not necessarily the right people to take their company to the next level. So I would come into the owner and talk through who are the people around you that we need to coach, that we need to mentor. Maybe there's some people we need to change out.
Yeah.
And then just look at what processes are in place to help take you to the business to the next level. Going back to a point you made earlier, I made a ton of mistakes in business. I, learned a lot. I made a lot of expensive mistakes. And my goal is now to work with owners. And yeah, they might see maybe being a little bit expensive, but I want to prove my value to them by either increasing their revenue, increasing their profit, and take them to the next level so that they're not going home exhausted. They're spending more time with their family. They're spending more time on golf or triathlons or something. So.
Right. And clearly there's a lot of time that those things take up. So.
Yeah.
So you brought up the point on the mistakes. So tell us, everybody wants to know, what are some of the big ones? What were some of the big costly ones that you made that, looking back, you could have avoided had you taken a couple of steps?
I would say the first one is hiring the wrong people. So I didn't really have a set of core values or true identifiable culture with my company. So when I brought people in, a lot of the time it was through desperation. And I didn't spend enough time making sure they were a good culture fit or enhance my culture. So a lot of the time they came into the company and just caused chaos and actually ended up costing us more money. By the time you bring them in, they cause that chaos, and then you fire them, and then you have to find somebody else. So I learned after probably too many years to take my time. What did they say? Hire slow, fire quick.
Right.
So I just took my time later on. I used different hiring techniques. I used personality assessments. I had maybe 4 or 5 different types of interviews. So I would say people was the first thing. And then I made the mistake early on of not listening to my clients, not talking to them enough.
Yeah.
And once I got some good leadership team in place, that allowed me more time to go out and talk to my clients, really just to find out what they wanted from my business, what are some of the things they're seeing from some of their other vendors that we can apply in our business? What are we communicating enough? Are we doing the right services? So, yeah, I didn't talk to my clients enough early on, but I changed that later in my business.
Nice. And so let's go down that rabbit hole for just a moment, because I have found, as I have people in better places in my business, it's allowed me to have more interaction with my clients. And quite frankly, it's amazing to me when you bring on a client, how much more they want to buy when they have a good experience with you. I think it's statistically something like 9 times easier to sell an existing or past client on additional services than it is to get a new one. And yet people don't do it. So did you have like a list of questions, or when you would go into these conversations with your current client base, what were the things that you wanted to talk about and that you talked about again and again repetitiously?
Yeah, we typically did have a list of questions, but it came around, is the quality of services we providing at your standard? Do we exceed your standard?
Yeah.
How is our pricing related to other services? Is your account manager talking to you enough, communicating with you enough? Are we proposing enough enhancement work to you so that, we could do the basic maintenance, but is there other things that we could be offering to you? What are some of the innovative things that we could be doing in terms of making your life easier? Because I think we quickly realized that a lot of our clients were just getting more and more work piled on them, and they weren't able to get to the properties. So how can we help? How can we get extra eyes and ears on the property to make their life easier?
Love it.
So we started to listen to them more and document it and figured out ways to change our business to help them out.
Yeah. It's interesting. Probably about a year ago, we started making sure at one key point of our business, when we launch a book specifically and that launch goes well, we would have a conversation with our client and go through a number of things. And what you just said is total gold. And I'm going to add several. We ask a series of questions, much of what you said, but a couple of them that we don't ask, like how is our pricing? And I'm assuming that the pricing question has to do with value you received and that sort of thing. And it's amazing to me, the question that you posed or the statement you made about, what other things can we bring to you of value? We do that now as well. And I bet it has added an additional $500,000 to $1 million a year in revenue to our business already this year. And I need to put a pencil to paper and actually look at that. But it's amazing to me the number of current clients that we're serving in bigger ways now, simply because we're asking those questions and listening to our clients. So wow, for those listening today, that is real gold, what Robert just gave you. So thank you for sharing that. Good stuff.
No problem. Yeah, you've already broken through and created that trust with them.
Yep.
And now you've created that trust. What else can you do? If they can deal with one vendor compared to 2 or 3, I mean, that's, again, going to make their life easier. Yep. So, so true.
Love it. Love it. Let's shift gears. I want to talk a little bit about the book, although we've talked about some principles of it. But, everybody has their different reasonings for writing a book. And you, of course, shared, one of your reasons was your dad and the books your dad has written, which is incredible. And, people have like their own reasons for writing a book that often are about serving their clients and serving the reader and that sort of thing. And you certainly, I'm sure, as an author, feel that. But you also had something in mind that you wanted your book to do for you. Maybe it's to grow the Radix group, give you speaking opportunities, et cetera. I wonder if you can talk about that for a minute, Robert, and even if there are any stories about how the book has already led to new opportunities, closed deals, or anything like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I think, all of the above you just mentioned is was on my mind, but it's gone way above my expectations. So initially I was going to use my book for more of that I suppose that fancy business card that I can hand over and just give them, it's a short book, it's maybe 100 pages, but allows me, puts me in a position that I can elevate myself So that's initially what I was thinking, is that I could become that expertise in, Ironman, relating it to the business and just be a business card. But it is now accelerated into, I've now had speaking engagements across in Europe,
Wow.
in Barcelona, in Dublin, in Munich, through my EO network. And I was able to send books all around Europe. So I've had some great speaking engagements there. I've now had some opportunities in Asia as well to do some speaking engagements. But, what's also moved into as well is I've now had people reach out to say, well, I really love the principles, and how can I build my own roadmap? Where am I going in the future? What are some of the tools that I can apply to my life? Because, I feel as though I've got so much more in me. I've got so much more capability. And I talk about that in the book, where I almost feel as though we only operate at 30-40% of our capabilities.
Yeah.
So, I've had a lot of people approach me and say, well, how can I take this further? I'm really inspired by your book, which, at the end of the book, I talk about part of the reason for writing it is if I can make an impact on a handful of people's lives, maybe they start exercising or walking around the block. It doesn't have to be a full Ironman.
Right.
But if I could just make them a little bit healthier, then I feel as though I've done my job.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. And it sounds like the book has done some amazing things for you with your speaking opportunities. And, I wonder if I can dig just for a moment on that one piece, is that, as a director in EO, and obviously very, very involved probably for many years in Entrepreneurs Organization, EO, it's given you a network to get your book into and to use your book. Talk to me for a moment about, what was your strategy, or what is your strategy with your book and with EO? Or is there a strategy that you're using there?
To be honest, there's not any real strategy there, because there's certainly some strict rules around promoting yourself and promoting your business. So I have to be really careful about that fine line. But I think just by naturally being involved in the organization at a higher level, and being involved in different committees and different boards, then I just naturally get exposure. People see my book on my signature or on my website. So I'm definitely getting a lot of opportunities there, but I have to be really careful about how much I promote myself.
Interesting. I wonder, is there anything wrong with offering your book for free? Is there anything wrong for, you having a willingness within the organization to get the book into people's hands, even if it's PDF that you could send? Would they see that as a value add, or would they see that as promotion?
It'd be a pretty interesting conversation. I have tried that, and I've had my hand slapped a couple of times for that. So, but no, you're right. There are people out there who will supply their books for free and suggest a speaking engagement for free at their local chapter.
Sure.
So there's still opportunities there. I'm still trying to navigate through that area there. But we have now 15,000 members worldwide. And, as you say, they're all great entrepreneurs, and they all have different challenges in certain ways. But that's part of the reason why I'm involved at high level, because I want to be able to help them out. And if they see that I have a book and that be a value add to them, then that's good for me.
Exactly. Good. Robert, wonderful. Great stuff today. Thank you for sharing. Let's, where can people get the book? Obviously on Amazon, but, tell us your website. Let's give some links. We'll have them in the show notes for anybody that is interested in learning more about you and getting a copy of your book and engaging with you.
Yeah, no, thank you, Rob. But of course, Amazon, we can get the book there. You can go to my website, the radixgroupllc.com. My book is there, my coaching courses. I'm happy even just to talk to people and see if I can help them down that roadmap. They can go to LinkedIn. I'm really active on LinkedIn and Facebook. So, I'm happy to help people out if they're interested in learning about my book or my coaching.
Love it. Love it. Well, again, thank you, my friend. Great to have you on today. Thanks for all the things that you shared and the wisdom. And obviously, the Radix Group, LLC.com. We'll give the links. And of course, again, it's, your Ironman Mindset for Entrepreneurs, great book for people to pick up. So thank you. Thanks for sharing, and glad to have you on the podcast today.
Yeah, thank you, Robbie. I appreciate it.